All right, so today's the day where we're going to be doing another audit, but I wanted to share with you my beautiful Buddha fountain in the corner here. And so for those of you that are going to start complaining that it sounds like an old man pissing in the corner, well, I'm going to leave my fountain on because I want to explain to you something that I found is a powerful secret when it comes to getting yourself out of maybe a financial situation that you don't want to be in anymore. And I know this defies logic, but the reason I wanted to leave my beautiful fountain on is because I typically leave this fountain on 24/7. Usually when I'm shooting YouTube videos in this room, I'll shut it off. I'm going to leave it on for now, but I'm going to explain to you why this is so powerful and instrumental in success. I'm a huge believer in something called feng shui. If you've never heard of it, you can look it up online. And one of the most, I think, profound success secrets that I've had, which again defies all logic, is having a fountain in my prosperity corner in my office and as well as my home. Okay. And so moving water kind of moves the energy, especially when it comes to prosperity. And so I am a huge believer, and I'm just going to give you a quick backstory before I go into our credit audits for today. I have 2 of them coming up, but I wanted to share with you the success secret because a lot of you are having some financial difficulties and you want to find a way to get out. And this is one of the ways, believe it or not, as ridiculous as it may seem. So a little backstory. I think it was the year 2001, 2002, somewhere in there, right before I had to file for personal bankruptcy because of identity theft with my first husband, who basically took all of, my credit profile, which was a beautiful, perfect credit profile at that time. And he decided after we filed for divorce to run up a bunch of credit cards and get a personal loan under my name. And back then, if you can remember that far, identity theft was never a thing. Like, people didn't do identity theft claims. People didn't file police reports. And even if you did, they probably wouldn't do much with it. I mean, obviously fast forward to today and it's way different now, but back then there was really no recourse at that time. And so I thought my only recourse at that point was to file for personal bankruptcy. Now, in 2003, that was the last what we call clean slate bankruptcy, year. And so I had an attorney kind of, I don't want to say twist my arm because it was after all my decision. I just felt like I was maybe slightly misled into believing that maybe bankruptcy was my only option. Of course, fast forward to today, and I regret filing for bankruptcy, but it's been more than 20 years and it is still on my historic report. If I pull LexisNexis, which is my total history profile, it will still be on there. And a lot of banks do refer back to the bankruptcy, even though it's been more than 20 years. And so when you have a bankruptcy, it does last forever. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because one of our credit audits has a bankruptcy on it. But let's talk about the fountain really quick because, again, this defies logic. So going back to 2003, I was just in a financial mess at that point in my life. And so I started reading a book on feng shui. I think her name was Karen Rausch Carter. And she wrote a book called Move Your Stuff, Change Your Life. I had never known anything about feng shui to that point. So I started reading, and the only section I was really focused in on is the prosperity section because I was really desperate to have money start coming into my life. So I started doing all the things that she recommended on prosperity, namely getting a fountain in my prosperity corner of my house at that time. And I actually had, I went to Michael's and I got myself some, I don't want to call it, it's cardstock, I guess, construction paper, that the kind that little kids will cut out for stuff. And I went and got purple construction paper, put it in the prosperity corner of my house, which was a closet. Right next to the closet, I had a fountain, a little tiny fountain that I ran as often as I could. I shut it off at night because this was in my bedroom. And I started to notice some profound changes in my life, some really, really profound changes. In fact, I want to show you something. See this? This is actually a project I did back in, I'm surprised I actually have it here because I thought I had it at my house. And I went to Michael's. I got myself one of those little treasure chests that, is kind of like plain wood. I bought myself some purple paint because purple is actually a prosperity color. And then I went and I created this little treasure chest and I glued all of these little gemstones. And this was one of the things that I did because you want to have something that represents prosperity to you in your prosperity corner. So in addition to the fountain and the purple the purple construction paper, I also created this, and I still have it to this day. This is it. And I know this seems childish, juvenile, and ridiculous, but it does work, because right after I created this and my whole prosperity corner and I cleaned it up, that's also very important too, is that you want to make sure that you clean up your prosperity corner. You don't want to have dirt in there. You don't want to have dirty shoes or, crumpled up clothes or any kind of heap of anything there that doesn't belong there. Anything that's broken, you want to get rid of all of that stuff. And you want to have only things that represent prosperity to you. So yes, I made this by hand from scratch. Well, I wouldn't say from scratch. It was, an existing wooden structure that I painted with purple, because purple, again, is considered a prosperity color in feng shui. And my entire life changed in 6 months from that point. Yes, I went from destitute, bankrupt, not really knowing where my next dollar was going to come in, actually borrowing money from my mom. It was the first and only time in my life I ever borrowed money from my mom, who didn't have money either at that point. But I borrowed money from my mom just for food. I remember that. And it just really bothered me, because I always considered myself extremely independent. And I did, of course, eventually pay her back within a short time. But it bothered me that I didn't even have food money at that time in my life. And, fast forward 6 months from that point when I set up my prosperity corner, including this beautiful little thing, which is not really so beautiful anymore. You can see on the top part here, all the fountains I've had over the years. I have really, because I always put this next to a fountain, it has all of the stuff from the fountain and stuff. But I keep this as a reminder of how powerful feng shui is. And so for those of you that are interested in really moving the energy in your house, and if you have an office, in your office as well, you do both spaces. And if you have an upstairs, downstairs, you'll do the prosperity corner in the upstairs and downstairs. If you don't know where the prosperity corner is, imagine walking through your front door and go into the far left corner of your house, or the far left corner of your office. And that is where your prosperity corner is. And then you can set up, have a little thing like this, or just maybe go to Michael's and get a bunch of little jewel looking things like this. Whatever represents prosperity to you is what you want in your corner. Clean it up, make sure there's no dust or dirt or any old broken items there. And then get yourself a fountain, man. This is really, really awesome. In fact, I also use this too. This, I swear to God, this is like magic here. So what is this? This is called abundance oil, and it's by a company called Young Living. This is really expensive. This bottle here is like $50 or $60, and you can probably get one still on Amazon. And so I actually put a couple of droplets of this abundance oil in my fountain. There is something magical about this, because this is another thing I started using, and this was based on a friend's recommendation this is, I think, a multi-level marketing company called Young Living. And he was just trying to sell me on a bunch of stuff. So I ended up getting the abundance oil. And there's something about this that's really magical. I swear this really does work. And so I put a couple drops of this every so often in the fountain. And yeah, my whole entire life changed after that. So I went from not knowing where I was going to, not knowing how I was going to be able to, make enough money to eat, and borrowing money from my mom to eat, to building a house, a custom home. Yes, in 6 months. And it was through one of my direct mail marketing companies that I started at that point in my life. But that's how fast it happened, where, it wasn't like I was sitting around twiddling my thumbs, and all of a sudden, all this wealth started coming in. I just had this idea of something that I can do. And I started to do a direct mail marketing campaign. I was actually having the direct mail mailers printed, and I was, folding and stuffing them in my living room, putting stamps on them as I was watching movies every day. And I would try to get, about 500 to 1,000 out a day. And then I hired at the time, my sister-in-law, and she started helping me stuff envelopes. And then eventually, within a short period of time after that, about a year after that, I was hiring a company to do all of the, the printing and the folding and the stuffing and the mailing for me, to the point where I was actually mailing out about 1 million letters a month. I was just under what American Express was doing at that time, as far as mailers. That's how big my company got within about a year to a year and a half from that point of me being completely destitute. So if you're in one of these situations financially where you're just like, Monica, I just don't know. I don't know where to turn, what to do. I strongly urge you to start changing the environment in your house. Start cleaning up your house. If your house is a disaster, clean it up, because that negatively affects your energy. Most importantly, focus on that prosperity corner. Again, walk through the front door of your house. Where's the far left corner of your house? And if you have an upstairs, downstairs, that means you have 2 prosperity corners that you're going to have to focus on. Get yourself a fountain. If you can afford it, get yourself this Young Living abundance oil, and start changing the energy in your environment, and you'd be shocked and amazed at how quick your financial status will change. In fact, what you'll probably notice is that over time, in a very, very short period of time, you'll start to get all of these really awesome, amazing multi-million-dollar business ideas that are happening. And it's up to you to act on those, okay? Don't just sit around and think about prosperity and think about how nice it would be to have a business. Start acting on these ideas that you start getting, because if you don't act on the ideas, if I didn't start the direct mail marketing campaigns, I would never have had a business. I would have never made multi-million-dollar business, an actual business from scratch, if I didn't actually follow through and do the work. So you have to, once you get the ideas, you have to start doing the work. Okay. So I just wanted to share that with you because I think it's important. I know a lot of you asked me about this different advice and stuff, and you don't understand that there is a way that you can tap into what I call this magical realm, where you can actually start to get the magic flowing in your life. And this is the way to do it. Have yourself a fountain, create something maybe as foolish and stupid as this may seem. This is not foolish and stupid. I could tell you, went from not being able to eat to multi-million-dollar business in 6 months and building a custom home in 6 months. Okay. So you might think that this is stupid all you want. I don't think it's stupid. You can think it's stupid all you want, but if you're broke, you don't even have the right to say what's stupid and what's not stupid, because you just don't know what the hell you're doing. If you knew what you were doing, you wouldn't be broke. I'll just put it that way. Don't want to mean any disrespect to anybody, but if you knew what the hell you were doing, you would not be broke. Okay. We live in a country that has endless amounts of opportunities and abundance. So there's absolutely no excuse for you to be broke unless you're just not able to figure it out. And there's a reason you're not able to figure it out. It's because you're not doing the right stuff. Okay. So this is a way to start. This actually starts to break the negative energy in your life. And then you'll start to get those multi-million-dollar ideas, start acting on those ideas. And you'll be shocked at how much progress you make in the next 3 to 6 months. Trust me on this. I know it seems odd and weird, but it's the most magical, strange secret I think I've ever come across. Okay. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I'm going to leave my fountain on. I don't care if you complain or not about it, but it gives me peace. And I think I can also give you probably a pretty awesome audit if I can be in my state of peace. So thank you very much for allowing me that today. Okay. So I'm going to take a sip of my, I think I'm addicted to these. Donut Shop has these Keurig pods are called, I think it's called One Step Latte. And the latest one I'm like addicted to now is called Mocha. It literally tastes like coffee and chocolate milk mixed together. But my favorite, I think, is either vanilla or caramel. They do these one step lattes, and I'm like addicted to them. So I have to drink a little bit of that, give myself some energy, and here we go. So the first one we're going to be focusing in on today is, I need my glasses. I'm not going to pretend like I could read here. Is a guy named Brian with a Y. And Brian is located in somewhere between Tennessee and California. Okay. Looks like he is in the military. So that's probably why he is moved between the two areas. Okay. So only Brian knows which one of these addresses, in fact, one of the addresses in my old stomping grounds in Orange County, California, where I initially moved to in 1987. I'm not going to mention where that's at, but only Brian knows which ones of these addresses are accurate. So Brian needs to go in here, and the very first thing that I always tell everybody is you need to figure out what's accurate on your credit reports. So if they have an inaccurate date of birth or year of birth, they usually just put the year of birth on there, then you need to address that. If they have any ulterior or AKAs, like for example, he has an AKA here. He needs to fix that, because even though it's his last name and first name converted and changed over, so it's his last name first and his first name, he needs to fix that, because, does that need to be on there? No, it really does not. It's not going to harm him? No, not really. But I like to be as clean as possible. If there's any alternative Social Security numbers, they'll usually include the last 4 digits that you never went by. Maybe somebody who was typing in a credit application typed in the wrong social security number and they transpose the numbers. So there might be alternative social security numbers you may or may not have used. Get rid of all that. Anything that's not clean, that not accurate, needs to be fixed. That's always going to be letter number one, folks. Letter number one is fixing and updating any information that's incorrect. So when you send a letter to Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion to update information, it's going to be a letter that's going to focus on the information on the credit reports that you know is incorrect, like any addresses. Then you want to make sure that you want to add to your letter, just say, hey, I just want to make sure you also have my current phone number as well. So any other phone numbers should not be on there, because these reports generally do not have your phone numbers and stuff on there. But if there's any time you ever need to communicate with Experian, Equifax, or TransUnion on the phone, they're going to tie your identity to usually your cell phone number. So if you don't have any accurate information as far as your phone numbers go, then you're not going to be able to do anything on the phone. I don't like to communicate with them on the phone anyway, but sometimes you have to, because there's some kind of problem and there's not going to be any way that you're going to be able to communicate or even validate or verify your account if you don't have the accurate phone numbers on your account. So when you send the first letter and you want to send a trackable mail, you want to say, hey, I need to update all this. I noticed on my Experian credit report, it says this for my alias. I've never gone by that alias ever. I notice it's saying that I've used this alternative social security number ending in blah, 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 four digits. I've never gone by that. That needs to be removed. In addition to that, I have never lived at this address, so this needs to be removed as well. Or I've moved away from this address more than 10 years ago. This also needs to be removed. If it's been less than 10 years, they're probably not going to remove old addresses. But you can try anyway. You could just say, I haven't lived there in a long time or whatever. You don't have to be specific. They usually just want the addresses from the last 2 years to be relevant and updated that way. So the other thing is, like I said, in the letter you're going to include, please make sure that you have my current cell phone, which is blah, 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 blah. And please make sure that you have my current house phone number, which is blah, 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 blah. And please make sure you have my current work phone number, which is blah, 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 blah. Because, again, if they ever need to verify your information, sometimes online as well, if they need to verify your information, and you're having a hard time being able to pull your credit reports or even start an account with Experian, Equifax, or TransUnion, likely it's because your information's off and they can't verify anything. So make sure in that first letter you include additional information that doesn't even show up on your credit reports, just so then that way when you do need to communicate with them, you do have the ability to do so and verify your account over the phone or online. So that's the first thing that Brian will do. The second letter that Brian will have. Now let's first talk about his mid-FICO score. So I blacked out his last name so I could show you this. If you could see, I have the FICO scores that are all listed there, okay? So the middle score is what, folks? It's the one I just put in the middle for you, just so that I can give you a cheat, which is 549, I believe. Yes, and it's Experian. TransUnion, he's got the lowest score, 467. That's bad, Brian. Sorry to tell you that. 562 with Equifax. By the way, I think Equifax is the most useless of all three credit reporting bureaus. They suck, but they're usually the easiest to get stuff off because they suck so bad. But yeah, they just suck. I can't even believe that they're still around. I would not be shocked if they ended up going out of business and replaced by somebody else. I don't even know if that's like a thing. Can a bureau go out of business? Probably. I think anything can go bankrupt, right? So I always like to focus on Experian or TransUnion. Now, a lot of people don't know that a lot of high-level banks, like Bank of America, like some expensive brand of cars that you want to purchase, they will actually pull a TransUnion report. They won't even pull an Experian report, because some entities, especially the ones that are the highest level, actually think that TransUnion is a better bureau than Experian. I don't know why. Maybe they think they're more above board. I have no idea. So I always focus on making sure that TransUnion and Experian are my highest FICO scores. Because like I said, Equifax is just like, people don't even take them seriously anymore, believe it or not. Now, Experian is usually the forerunner in all this, just because, I mean, it is the biggest bureau in my opinion. So I always take a look and see what I can get off of Experian and TransUnion. I make that my focus, but you should always just send disputes to all three. So the second letter that Brian's going to send, and by the way, the second letter can go at the same time, yes. So you're going to be sending 3 letters at the same time to the 3 reporting bureaus. Obviously, the 3 reporting bureaus, Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. Letter number 1 is going to be to update information and make sure that they have the relevant phone numbers and your current address on file. Letter number 2 is going to be your dispute letter, ideally your 609-611 letter, which you can get for free at getdisputeletters.com or secretcreditletters.com. It's called the 609-611 letter. That's going to be your first round of disputes. Your third letter needs to be to dispute hard inquiries. You could also get a hard inquiry dispute letter from getdisputeletters.com or secretcreditletters.com. And Brian doesn't have any inquiries. Let's just skip to the good stuff, which means he doesn't have to do the third letter. So you send all 3 letters at the same time, but in different envelopes. Does that make sense? Everybody always asks me that. It's like, how long do I have to wait after I send the information update letter to send a dispute letter? You don't have to wait at all. I just like them all separate, because if you have too much crap going on in one letter, oh, I'd like to update all this information and dispute all these accounts and take all these hard inquiries off, and you have it piled all in one letter, it just confuses the system, and then nothing gets done. And then they don't even do the investigation at all. And then you're just stuck with all this crap on your credit report that never comes off. So don't be lazy. Send 3 separate letters, okay? And in Brian's case, he would only send 2 because he doesn't have any hard inquiries to dispute, which that would be the third letter, okay? So let's talk about, okay, so he has a bankruptcy too. So 2 of my audits today have a bankruptcy, okay? So we need to get this FICO score up. So his Experian's 549 and his Equifax is 562. Those are his 2 highest. I mean, we want to try to get 100 points as quickly as possible. So what can we do, Brian, to help you out here? Okay, so let's focus on closed accounts first, because he's got a bunch of open accounts. Some of his open accounts have some lates, which I don't like to see, but at least he recovered and he was able to catch up his payments, so that's good on you, Brian. If you can pay your bills, pay your damn bills, for crying out loud. Just pay the bills, okay? I can already tell you though what's hurting his credit. So first of all, here's an alarm bell. All of his credit reports say that his overall credit usage is 0%. Okay, we need to have that a little higher because it's showing that he's not even using his credit. So let's talk about what he needs to do for a game plan here. He has no hard inquiries to dispute, which is good. But what is weighing down his FICO? Now, I will tell you that at the very end here, I'll have to cover up his name. It will tell you what's damaging your FICO. Okay, and in this case, Experian says serious delinquencies. Okay, well, I wouldn't call 60-day or 90-day delinquents serious, but okay. Number of your accounts for 60 days over, 60 days late. Virtually no. Okay, yeah, 1 public record, but I'm just not seeing it. They're saying that there's 1 public record, and I'm not seeing the public record here. Oh, wait, yeah, I do. Sorry. Public record is the bankruptcy. Sorry, my bad. He has no collection account, so that's good. So it's the bankruptcy that's hurting his score. So let's see what we can do for Brian as far as his strategy. Keep paying your bills on time. He's got a Capital One. He's got a Ford loan, which is good. Looks like he's got a couple of Ford loans. JP Morgan Chase credit card, that's good. Looks like he was late in the same period of time between March and May of 2025, so something must have happened. So this is what I would do, Brian. I did a video about how to update and get rid of late pays. So one of the first things that you could do is you can call these credit issuing banks. Sometimes they'll do it, sometimes they don't, and get a goodwill exemption. I actually have a letter at getdisputeletters.com or secretcreditletters.com that you can send in to American Express, Apple Card, and Capital One, because it looks like those are, oh, and I'm sorry, okay, so JPMCP, so CB, which is JP Morgan Chase. There's ×2. And ask for an exemption. And it looks like, since it looks like you're in the military, I would just say maybe that I was moving or whatever the case may be. And I would just say, listen, I did not get the bills. I did not, I was moving at that time across the country from Tennessee to California or vice versa. I don't really know what the hell you were doing. But tell them that you would like a goodwill exception for your late pays because you just didn't receive the bills. And I would mail that off to Apple, Amex, and JP Morgan, and what's the other one? I don't know what the other one is. Something. I don't know. I mentioned it somewhere. Capital One. So send those 4 letters off, okay? See what happens. Wait 30 days. Okay. I do have a letter like that at getdisputeletters.com or secretcreditletters.com, and it's called Goodwill. And it's a Goodwill, and it asks them for an exception, because just say, I was moving across the country, I did not receive the statements. Whatever you want to say. See if it comes off. They might update it favorably. If they don't update it favorably, you can also call them on the phone after the letter goes out and just say, hey, would you be willing to work with me? And maybe about 50% of them will, which would knock off 50% of them. And the other 50% will be like, screw you, Brian, you're just stuck with it. Okay. So if that's the case, then there's another strategy that I have in my video that talk about exactly what to do. And so I'll just give you the short of it. And that is, you're going to dispute it. So you're going to dispute those lates with Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Yes, you can use the 609 letter to do that if you'd like, but you're going to have to say it needs to be updated because this information is incorrect, and just say you've never been late. Don't explain anything. Don't say anything else. Don't give any excuses. Just say it's never been late, period. That's all there is to it. Seems to me, though, that you have a bunch of closed accounts. So let's see, closed. So here's your problem here, Brian, is that you have all closed accounts. So when are you going to start opening up accounts is my question, because you have a 0% overall credit usage. You have to have some credit usage if you're going to rebuild your credit. These scores, Brian, or anybody else listening, will never go up if you don't have any credit usage and if you're not rebuilding your credit. So let's talk about some options as far as a second chance credit card. Brian, I recommend that you get yourself a second chance credit card, maybe Credit One, Milestone, Destiny, Pedal One, Indigo. There's a ton of them out there that will do second chance. Now choose one, okay? Just one second chance credit card. You don't want 10, you don't want, 5, you just want one for now to start the process of rebuilding your credit. Now, if you can afford it, say you have $1,000 extra, okay? And if you could afford it, go to Bank of America, get their secured credit card, because the cool thing about Bank of America is that if you put $1,000 into a secured credit card and you make all the payments on time for a full year, at the end of the year, after the 12-month period is over, they will give you back that $1,000. Any other secured credit card company I've ever worked with, they keep the money forever. I have a $5,000 balance with Applied Card Bank on a secured credit card that I got when I first started rebuilding my credit after my 2003 bankruptcy, and they still have my $5,000, okay? They will never give that back until I close my account. I'm not going to close my account because it gives me the longevity I need, which gives me almost a 900 mid FICO score, which is pretty freaking amazing. So I'm not going to be closing that to get my $5,000 back. Maybe my daughter will get it back one day when I pass away and, I don't need the cards anymore, but that's basically how it's going to be. So I like to see people get above board, and I'm not saying Credit One and Indigo and Milestone and Destiny and all these other second chance credit cards aren't above board. What I'm saying is they are a little unscrupulous on screwing you on the interest rates. And the other problem is that when people look at your credit, when they see Bank of America, that's way different than looking at Credit One, okay? So if you can get yourself a secured credit card with any of the larger banks, Wells Fargo, Citibank, any of those that can give you a secured credit card, then that's the route you want to take. Now, here's my suggestion for you, Brian, since you are in the military. Have you considered getting a Navy Federal Credit Union bank account? You could start a bank account with Navy Federal Credit Union for $5. You simply go online and you do all the stuff that they tell you to do at Navy Federal to start an account online. And all you need is $5 to open up this account. And then you want to get in good with Navy Federal, because if you can, then what you can also do is something called a pledge loan. And a pledge loan will allow you to, if you wanted to take that $1,000 or you have an extra $1,000, or you got yourself a Credit One unsecured credit card to start off, for example, and you have $1,000 to put into what we call a pledge loan. Pledge loan is like a secured loan. It's like a secured signature loan. So you want to get yourself a 12-month, maximum 24-month pledge loan with Navy Federal once you open up your account. And since you're in the Army or were in the Army, you definitely are a shoo-in for a Navy Federal credit union account. $5 to start it, and then once you start your account, it takes about a week or two for you to get all the account docs in the mail and your debit card and all that. And then what you'd like to do is you need to start a pledge loan, which is a secured signature loan essentially, and you put $1,000 in there. Within the first 30 days, Brian, listen to me carefully. You want to pay down that balance by $900. So you want to take $900, pay off most of the loan, and then that remaining $100 balance, you'll put it on auto pay of, say, $9 or $10 a month until it's paid off over the course of the next year. You don't want to pay it off under a year. And you don't want to wait 2 years to pay it off, but you want to pay it off over the course of that year. That will boost your FICO, believe it or not, by around 60 or 80 points over the course of the next year. Believe it or not, that will boost your FICO a lot. You can also inquire with Navy Federal about their secured credit card programs too, if they're not willing to give you an unsecured credit card. They may or may not give you an unsecured credit card, but with a 467 FICO on your TransUnion, probably not. They might give you, they would probably give you a secured credit card. So you might want to get both a pledge loan and a secured credit card with Navy Federal if you can, because Navy Federal is one of the largest, it is the largest military bank in the entire world. So it's definitely considered above board the way I was describing Wells Fargo and Bank of America and all those other big banks, okay? So that's what I would do, Brian, if I were you. You have to start some credit accounts, man. I find this audit stuff to be interesting, and here's why. Because when people want to do an audit, which, by the way, if you want me to audit your credit, simply go to school.com/Monica Main, go to the classroom tab, look for credit audit, and I will give you instructions on how to send in your 3 credit reports. The 3 credit reports have to be a PDF in not landscape, the portfolio. So I don't want it across like this. I want it up down like this. And they all have to be 3 separate PDFs. One for Experian, one for Equifax, one for TransUnion. I don't make any exceptions. So if you want to do it some different way, or you want to get the credit report some other way, I just basically delete your stuff. I get so many of these requests every single day. I don't have to work with stuff that I can't read quickly and easily, okay? So the rules are all there. So again, school.com/Monica Main. And what you want to do is go to the classroom tab, look for credit audit, follow the instructions, email your 3 credit reports in one email to me. I don't want 3 separate emails. And I will do a credit audit. But see, this is the thing. When you guys are requesting audits, you're thinking that you have some mind-blowing different thing going on in your credit. Most of the credit audits that I do have the same crap going on over and over again, okay? It's just that you don't want to listen to what my recommendations are for people like Brian, who probably has some similar credit history that you do. And you don't want to listen. You're like, la, 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 la. I don't want to listen to what Brian's audit's about. I just want you to do my audit, which is probably going to be 80% of an overlap of what I just told Brian to do, okay? So please just don't assume that because I don't do your audit, then you're screwed and you don't know what to do. People's credit are, for the most part, mostly the same from what I can tell, okay? All right, let's switch gears. Brian, you should know what to do by now. I'm going to take another sip of my mocha. All right. Now I have a lady, I think, named Itea in Delaware. Okay, if I'm assuming that you're a female and you're a male, I apologize. Itea, but it just seems like it probably would be a female. I don't know. So Itea's got some decent credit here. So take a look. Okay, what's our mid-FICO score, people? Obviously, it's the TransUnion at 754. It's got some pretty kick-ass credit here. Love the credit usage. 27%. If we can get that lower, that would be great. So let's see where the problem is with Itea and what I can recommend. So all of her new accounts that she had, so she did file for bankruptcy. And by the way, this is a little tip that I have from me to you, okay? So this is her public record, bankruptcy right there. Brian had the same thing. So it was filed on February 8th of 2024. Hasn't been that long, folks. And that just goes to show you, those of you that are freaking out over a bankruptcy, or, oh no, I got to file for bankruptcy because of fill in the blank and I'm in debt $50,000 to $100,000, I'll never be able to afford it, or I have $200,000 plus in medical bills, I'll never be able to afford it, and you're dreading it, take a look at Itea's credit in roughly 18 months after her bankruptcy, folks. Hello. Not bad at all. But I could tell you what Itea did differently than Brian, because Brian filed when? When did Brian file for bankruptcy? Because I think his was relatively, okay, June 5th, 2025. So yeah, he's going to have to wait about a year anyway, and it'll start going up. But he still has to do his rebuilding. He has no new accounts. That's the problem. There's no rebuilding that's occurring here with Brian. But with Itea, she has new accounts. She's got a Capital One. She's got some kind of auto loan with, it looks like one of those unscrupulous high interest rate places, but that's where you have to start if you file for bankruptcy. You guys have to be familiar with that. Look, Navy Federal Credit Union. Looks like Itea has something, a credit card. Okay, Itea was able to get a credit card from Navy Federal, which, Brian, if you're listening, what did I just say about the Navy Federal? You want to get yourself a Navy Federal account and credit card, because she was already able to qualify for $15,000. She's got a $23,000 credit limit with Navy Federal. Of course, it looks like she probably had this account right before she filed for bankruptcy, but still, it looks like they didn't take away any of her credit limit, which is good. Because sometimes they will do that. They'll take away your credit limit even if you don't file against them. Okay, so that's open. So the Navy Federal account is open. Capital One account is open, and her consumer portfolio for her auto loan is open. And these first two, Capital One and consumer portfolio, and a second Capital One, two Capital Ones, and a consumer portfolio looks like are open, as well as her Navy Federal. Those are 4 accounts that are open. Now let's get into the closed accounts. There's a ton of closed accounts. Austin Capital, Citadel, City Card. So there's just a bunch of closed accounts, but at least the accounts have some history. Now let me tell you guys something about opening and closing accounts. Stop doing that, okay? So here's the mistake, one of the mistakes that she made. She had a secured card with PNC Bank, okay, when she was reestablishing her credit profile after her bankruptcy. It looks like. Maybe not. Well, maybe not. But why did she close her secured card? She was probably rebuilding credit because she seems really young. When was she born? I think in the 80s or something. So why Itea, did you close your account? You should not. She closed the Citibank card. She closed, she should not have been closing any of these. If you're starting anew and you need to get yourself a secured card, again, you are married to it for life. I just told you my story about my $5,000 thing and how Applied Bank is what they're called now, how they are going to keep my $5,000 till I die. My daughter's probably going to get it one day, because I'm going to keep that longevity. You don't get longevity if you're opening and closing card accounts once a year, okay? That's not how that works. So stop screwing yourself over, Itea, and do the right thing. She's got, looks like, 4 hard inquiries. These need to be taken off. So Itea, you are going to do your letter to update any information. I'm pretty sure you don't live at a P.O. box, so you need to update your current address, because that's fine if you have a P.O. box on your credit report, but they need your actual physical address. So you need to update that. You need to also make sure that they have your current employer, if they clearly don't, unless you don't work, which is, I guess, fine. And then make sure that they have all your current phone numbers, your home phone number if you have one. Make sure that they definitely have your cell, and if you have a work phone number, make sure they have that as well, because they use that information to verify you if you're physically calling them on the phone or trying to get somewhere online in many cases. Okay, so you have, looks like, 4 open accounts, which is great. Keep paying on those on time, but here's how you can increase. There's nothing to dispute here. There's literally nothing to dispute. So you would only send 2 letters. One to update your personal information. Letter number 2 would be to dispute these 4 hard inquiries here. I don't care if you did the hard inquiries or not, dispute them anyway. So there's 2, this is a 2-step process. So you'll first dispute these hard inquiries with Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion first. Wait your 30 calendar days, and then you'll dispute them directly with these credit furnishers, which, as you can clearly see, the address is there. You can dispute it directly with them by sending the dispute directly to them after you don't get anywhere with the 3 credit reporting bureaus. Now, the reason you do the credit reporting bureau disputes first is because there's a good chance that it will fall off. It'll just come right off. So might as well take a chance at it first with the bureaus and then go after the credit furnishers and have them remove it for lack of permissible purpose. And I do have a letter for that too. I could disputeletters.com or secretcreditlenders.com for hard inquiries. Okay. So what else can we do to increase your FICO score? Let's see. What's helping? Like I said, they have what's hurting. It looks like it's saying that the bankruptcy is hurting you. I mean, it kind of is. I already knew that your short account history is hurting you. You got to stop closing these accounts, these revolving accounts. Obviously, if it's a mortgage or a car loan, it's going to close at some point, but you got to stop opening and closing these accounts. You're going to be married to these revolving credit cards forever. So make sure that you make your selections very, very carefully. And then they do consider a 27% usage. They consider that high. Okay. We need to get that usage below 7%. Oh, across the board, not with any specific credit card, but across the board. Okay. So your FICO scores are really great with TransUnion and Equifax. We need to boost our Experian because, as I told you before, I don't even consider Equifax a serious contender in the bureau category. But these two have to be high. TransUnion's pretty high. Experian's not. So here's my suggestion to you, since you do have a high enough FICO. So I tell you, if you don't already have yourself a corporation, the corporation can be in your home state. It could be in one of the 4 anonymous states. The 4 anonymous states are Wyoming, Delaware, Nevada, and New Mexico. And you can go to amerilawyer.com and you can get yourself a corporation. Make sure you get an EIN as well, which stands for Employer Identification Number, which is essentially the Social Security number for your corporation. Once you get all your corporate docs and your EIN in the mail, then what you want to do is you want to apply for some business credit cards. I recommend that you apply for a Navy Federal. So if you want to start a business checking account with Navy Federal, since you already have a relationship with them, then start yourself a $100 account with them for your business checking. And then get yourself a business credit card with Navy Federal, and also get yourself an American Express card as well. And what you want to do is start alleviating the balances of your personal credit cards. So you want to have, this is my recommendation to you, and I do this all the time. Whereas I have one designated business credit card that I use for all my personal expenses. And then that way, all of my personal credit usage is not dumping onto my personal credit report, weighing down my FICO score. I actually just have that card. And yes, I do pay for the card out of my personal checking account, but I use just that card for my personal expenses. So then that way it never reports on my personal credit because it's a business credit card. So that's what you want. You want to start collecting some business credit cards. Now, the ones to avoid is Capital One Sparks card. Do not get a Capital One Sparks business card, and do not get a Discover business credit card, because those will report on your personal credit. You do not want that. Okay. So avoid those 2 cards at all costs. However, what I do suggest that you do is get yourself an American Express, get yourself a Navy Federal business credit card. And I would also get, I don't know if you have a Costco membership. If you do, then I recommend that you get the Citibank Costco Visa. It's an amazing card to get. You get all these perks with Costco. You get all these, they cut me a check every single year at the end of the year. And then I got to try to figure out how to spend $1,800 at Costco, which nowadays is not that hard to do. But I've gotten thousands of dollars at the end of the year from Costco every year because of the amount of money I spend on that card. So I love that card. Another option is Chase Inc. Chase Inc. will probably give you the highest unsecured amount of money for a business credit card. And again, when you apply, you're going to apply for the business credit card. You're going to use your personal Social Security number, and then you're going to use your EIN for your company whenever you apply for these cards, okay? Because you need business credit. And that will knock down this usage. By knocking down the usage on your personal credit, it will increase your FICO score. And stop getting personal credit cards, because how many of them do you have that are currently open? You have Capital One, and you have Navy Federal. You have 3 personal credit cards, it looks like. You don't need any more. cap it off at 3. That's it. You don't need any more personal credit cards. From this point forward, you need to be focusing in on getting those business credit cards, and that's it. You don't get any more personal credit cards. You don't need any more, okay? And then that will immediately knock down your usage. Sorry, I dropped your credit report on the floor. And then that way you can continue pushing down the usage, and it will increase your FICO score overall. I don't think you need to do a Navy Federal pledge loan because your FICO score is high enough. If you did, you could. That's optional, and that will probably increase your FICO maybe another 30 to 50 points over the course of, I would say, 60 to 90 days. Now, you do the same thing that I told Brian. You could put $1,000 into a pledge loan. Within 30 days, you pay off 900 of it, and then you get on auto pay for the remaining balance for 12 months, for the remaining 11 months thereafter. That will increase your FICO maybe around 30 or 40 points if you want to do it that way. And then finally, I'm looking at your TransUnion. So it looked like on your your Experian report, you had 4 hard inquiries. Looks like you have 8 hard inquiries on TransUnion right here. Dispute all those, okay? And by the way, you guys, I'm going to pick up this report. You can't do like a one and done deal when you're doing any disputing for anything. Because case in point, let me see where her hard inquiries are. She has 4 hard inquiries on her Experian credit report, right? So you can't just copy and paste all the information you have, for both letters. Obviously, you're only going to include the disputed hard inquiries on your Experian letter here. You're going to include the disputed hard inquiries on your TransUnion. They're going to be different, you guys. You can't just say, oh, I just want to dispute these 4 and just do the same letter for Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. You have to actually see what data and information is on each report, so you're making sure that you have a correct, valid dispute letter going out. So for your TransUnion dispute, you're going to be doing 8 disputes, 8 hard inquiry disputes, which will be a separate letter. So again, letter number 1, Itea, is updating any inaccurate information, making sure that they have your current cell phone and home number on file. And in the event that you ever, God forbid, need to call them on the phone or, validate anything online, it's good to have that information because they'll probably send you a text message to validate your account. And if they have the wrong number, they're not going to be able to validate anything. And then you're going to be screwed and set yourself back. Let's see. What kind of inquiries do you have on your Equifax? That's going to be also a different letter. Let's see. I don't see anything here. Do I? You only have 2. You have 2. So you see what I mean, you guys? She's got 2 hard inquiries on Equifax, which are both Capital One. She's got the same 2 at Capital One and TransUnion and Experian, but then she's got completely different accounts on the rest of them are completely different. So she's going to do an update letter. Letter number 1 to Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, and letter number 2 is going to be a hard inquiry letter. Dispute letter to Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. There will not be a 609, 611 letter to dispute any accounts because all of our accounts are good. You don't want to remove good accounts, even if they're closed. You don't want to remove anything that's good. Yeah, and then if they don't remove these inquiries, then go directly to the credit furnishers because the furnishers' addresses are there. And after you wait 30 days, if TransUnion or Equifax or Experian doesn't take these hard inquiries off, then you need to dispute directly with the credit furnisher by sending them a dispute letter along. You don't send them ID. I don't send any credit furnishers ID, but I just let them know that they don't have permissible purpose as per federal law. You send a trackable mail. So it's just a letter in an envelope via trackable mail to each one of these credit furnishers stating that they don't have permissible purpose to pull your credit. And 9 times out of 10, they'll just take it off your credit report because they don't want to have any problems with you because they don't care about you. Okay, the last thing they want is a lawsuit or anything weird to deal with legally. So they usually just take it off. All right. So I hope that helps you. If this is one of your credit scenarios, great. If not, if you think you have something really unusual that I haven't talked about yet, then by all means go to monicamain.com. Well, I'm sorry. Actually, you could go to monicamain.com/group if you're having a hard time getting into school directly, which some of you are. So you can go to monicamain.com/group. And you can get into my school group that way, my free school group, or you can go to school.com/monicamain. But again, some of you are having problems getting there. So again, you can go to monicamain.com/group or school.com/monicamain to get into my free group. Go to the classroom tab, look for the credit audit, and follow the instructions, and you'll email me the 3 credit reports, and I will be more than happy to give you an audit if you have an unusual or unique situation. If it's just like everybody else's, you don't really have a really solid shot at getting an audit, because believe it or not, most of your credit is pretty much the same, and I have pretty much the same recommendations for you. So if you found that this was helpful, give me a nice thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you want to help me out a little bit. In addition to that, you can also get my free Credit Millionaire book from school.com/Monica Main. I'm not going to keep it up much longer. So again, if you want that free Credit Millionaire book, which talks about not only fixing your personal credit as quickly as possible, but also talks about building business credit, like I was talking about with Itea, the tricks and the backdoor loopholes to be able to secure unsecured credit to start a business, invest, to build wealth for yourself, then you'll definitely want to get the Credit Millionaire book. So again, school.com/Monica Main. This is Monica Main signing off, and I will see you in the next video.